Hello everyone, welcome to the 24th episode of our Singapore road trip. In this episode, we are going to visit to the one and only hot spring in Singapore mainland, the Sembawang Hot Spring Park. Apart from visiting the hot spring, we are also going to look into the history of the hot spring and soak ourselves in the steaming mineral water and how to cook an egg in the natural hot water. And we're going to have a simple breakfast at the Sembawang Eating House, which is located inside the Sembawang Hot Spring Park itself. And now we are in our 24th episode, and if you still haven't seen the previous episode, click the link in the iCard and watch them now. And now let's go into this episode of our Singapore road trip. Do you know that tiny Singapore has its very own natural hot spring? And to find it, you need to go way up north to Sembawang, and it isn't quite like other hot spring facilities that you would find overseas. Don't go up to the Sembawang Hot Spring Park expecting a hot spring resort or even pools for bathing in. This spot used to just have a tap in the ground, but the natural park have refurbished it into a beautiful hot spring park, which you will see later. If you are driving, you just need to be prepared because there is no parking facilities at the Sembawang Hot Spring Park and you got to park somewhere nearby. The name Seletaris is just not only the name of this condominium, but it also got something to do with the history of the hot spring, which we will talk about it later. As we are heading nearer to the hot spring park, which is just 200 meters away, you can see people coming out of the hot spring carrying buckets which they had used to soak their feet, and you can also see people taking away bottled water back home. The local belief is that the minerals in the water have curative and medicinal qualities which can cure ailments like rheumatism, arthritis, and even skin problems like acne, which is what keeps some Singaporeans coming back regularly. Others believe having a soak would bring them good luck before a horse race. Sembawang Hot Spring Park is located at the junction of Sembawang Road and Gambas Avenue in Singapore's north, not very far from Chong Pang Town Centre and just besides Chong Pang Army Base. I came prepared wearing sandals, and hence I saved the time required to dry my feet before wearing the socks. As I mentioned earlier, there is no parking facilities at the park, so you got to park somewhere nearby at any HDB blocks. Sembawang Hot Spring is actually one of two natural hot springs in Singapore, but the only one that is publicly accessible. The other natural hot spring is located on Pulau Tekong, an offshore island used for military training purposes. Now let's get into the history of this hot spring. In 1908, Municipal Ranger A.B.Goodall discovered hot springs in the Sembawang Pineapple Estate belonging to Sia Eng Kiong, a Chinese merchant. He covered 3 of the springs so that water would be concentrated through the 4th one. Sensing a business opportunity, Sia sent a sample of the spring water to London for examination. After receiving favorable report, he began bottling the water in aerated form and sold it under the brand name Jombun. The drink was widely used as a table water for years. Sia's bottled water business was later continued by his father under the name Singapore Natural Mineral Water Hot Springs Company. The company was sold to another proprietor in 1914, and in 1921 the soft drink firm F&N acquired the land and the business, and they continue to produce water bottle by the name Seletaris and Zom. And now you know from where the condominium got its name Seletaris. The spring, along with a well built nearby, soon became popular with the villagers, who frequently sought its water for its supposed healing powers. They even went there to boil eggs, wash their clothes, and defeather poultry. The village gained fame and came to known as Kampong Air Panas, meaning village of hot water. The hot springs flow was interrupted during World War II when a bomb fell near the well during an air raid over Singapore. The Japanese forces, upon learning of the existence of this hot spring, built a number of thermal baths in the area to relax in the waters. In 1985, the hot spring and the land surrounding it were acquired by the Ministry of Defense for the expansion of Sembawang Air Base. This led to calls from the public to preserve the hot spring and keep it open. Later, in 2002, the Ministry of Defense announced the development plans for Sembawang Air Base would continue, but agreed to preserve the hot spring and to provide a gate for the public to access it during the daytime. Now let's come to the current times of the Sembawang Hot Spring Park. The part from the entrance of the Sembawang Hot Spring Park to the hot spring, you have a nice beautiful floral walk with some beautiful flowers along the way. And you also have a Sembawang eating house and a restroom for your convenience.
조금 서툴지만 이해해줄래 동화 속에서만 보던 Just like shining star 서로 바라보는 이곳 I'll be always by your side Sunny day you make my dream come true 행복한 너 그리고 나 우릴 비추고 With you by my side 멈춘 시간 속 서로가 마주하는 이곳 I've been waiting for a love like this so 기분 좋은 바람 불어와 행복한 너 그리고 나 우릴 감싸고 With you by my side 지금 이 순간 서로가 마주하는 지금 I can see you through a little far away 이게 절이 지난데도 내 진심을 내게 전할 수 있게 나의 품에 가득 안고 고백할 거야 You will always be my everything to me
The red brick wall over here houses the old original well. My advice to you, if you want to have some peaceful, relaxing time over here, don't come during peak hours like the weekends or public holiday. Choose off-peak hours. And today is the Saturday morning, and now you can see a small number of crowded people queuing here. There are some nice small shaded places over here, and if you have a bucket of your own, you can fetch some water and sit and relax and soak your feet in a private space. If you forgot to bring your own bucket, you can loan a bucket from the Sembawang eating house, and you can also rent utensils and buy egg to boil them. And this is the egg cooking station. To cook your egg, soft boil them perfectly, you need to have certain tricks. As you know, the water over here is not 100-degree boiling Celsius and they are 70 degrees Celsius only. So you need to keep your eggs in running water. Now let me try out my egg boiling technique. These are the stuffs I bought from my home. 2 eggs, a cup and salt and pepper. It would take roughly about 30 minutes to boil your egg perfectly, and meanwhile the crowd have reduced a bit, so let's go and soak ourselves.
Strenuous exercises. Please do not gather in groups of more than 8 people, a safe distance of 1 meter between individuals and other groups. Thank you for your cooperation.
The cascading pool design isn't just for aesthetic purposes. The water that is drawn up directly from the ground is about 70 degrees Celsius, and as the water cascades down to larger and shallower pools, the temperature of each pool drops incrementally until it is rather balmy 40 degrees Celsius at the lowest level, which is where you can sit and stick your feet in. Don't worry if you couldn't get your hands onto a bucket, this kind of plastic bags comes handy for you. And now I hope my eggs are boiled softly. Before I could open over here, I'm going to the Sembawang eating house and get a light breakfast to go blended together with these eggs. The cafe is small and cozy, and you can find all the local and western foods and drinks. And this is where you can rent a bucket and utensils to soak your feet and boil eggs. And that's the end of our road trip to the Sembawang hot spring. And if you are driving and if you have interest in architects, don't forget to pay a visit to the colonial black and white houses which used to govern the British officials at the Sembawang Road West, which I have planned to cover during a road trip after I get my GoPro head mount camera. And that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't seen the previous episode of my road trip, click the link in the iCard to watch them.
설레임을 주는 걸 언젠가부터였을까